Hello all, and thank you for coming. I would like to start off this talk by telling about the mobile health vision for the medical tricorder. We think of a tricorder as a single device that can form a range of medical measurements. More than that, we hope for a future where everyone owns or at least has immediate access to a medical tricorder that can help address a variety of specific medical needs. Viewing smartphones as a ubiquitous sensor package, we hope to leverage the millions of smartphones in people's pockets as the vehicle for medical measurements and physiological calculations. We envision an app store of software-enabled medical sensors that can transform phones into specialized devices. The key here is a vast range of diverse measurement possibilities driven by collective intelligence. Given that healthcare needs differ widely by age, gender, geographic location, lifestyle, and occupation, smartphone-based medical measurements should not be limited to just the developments from manufacturers or large companies. We can hope to ensure that the marginalized groups and those not represented in the initial development can have niche applications developed specifically for them. Even if companies like Google or Apple strive to tackle some of the sensing related to more prevalent medical issues, there will remain unaddressed needs for various parts of our community. For these reasons, there must be a body of independent developers to identify and create solutions for the issues not profitable or commercialized, like those affecting smaller portions of our community. As you may know, the idea for medical the idea for smartphone-based health sensing is not new, and there has been significant work done in developing a variety of applications. These applications cover a range of medical areas, including cardiac health, neonatal care, upper respiratory infections, substance abuse, mental health, age-related diseases, and even oral health. Unfortunately, nearly all of these applications and research applications, all of these applications are research applications, unavailable to the public. While some minor exceptions exist, like simple heart rate sensing from Google, much work remains to expand research applications on individual smartphone models to universal software-based sensors for widespread use. In this talk, I will first identify some of the key challenges we face in smartphone-based sensing. Then I'll present some tenets which will serve as potential features for the community to improve the proliferation of smartphone-based health sensing. Finally, I will conclude with our future plans and areas of interest. Developing software-enabled techniques for medical sensing on smartphones is quite difficult and often device-specific. Although many phones look similar, there is large variety between smartphones that make generalizing medical sensing difficult. Although smartphones are not made with medical measurements in mind, many of the design characteristics of smartphones are not well suited for medical applications. The first key challenge is the rapid evolution of smartphones. It comes as no surprise that as technology improves and demands rise, companies work to improve their product and differentiate from competitors. These improvements often manifest in a smartphone evolution that is not well suited for health sensing because the changes in available sensors. As shown here in the diagram, companies commonly change their products to have novel and exciting features. While this is important for consumers, as sensors are taken away, health sensing applications dependent on those features are removed as well. This makes improvements and progress in health sensing very difficult. For example, the removal of dedicated hardware for facial recognition in the Google Pixel 5 or Samsung Galaxy S10 severely limits mobile pupillometry. The IR camera included as part of the facial recognition system in previous devices enabled equitable, accurate pupil detection and size estimation because the pupil and iris are easily discernible in the IR spectrum. Another example is the removal of the pressure-sensitive screen in the iPhone 11. The pressure sensor was key to enabling the oscillometric blood pressure measurement, which relies on measuring the force of the finger on the smartphone screen. Aside from differences in the types of sensors available, there are also significant variability between the commonplace sensors like cameras, microphones, and speakers. Differences in camera lens width, LED type, and not to mention the location of each sensor on different smartphone models can cause large measurement variations. These variations, as well as the unknown impact from disparities in untested smartphone models, make it extremely difficult to achieve the measurement consistency necessary for regulatory approval. Problems from these differences manifest in a variety of measurements. For example, the microphone location will alter spirometry measurements. LED differences alter health measurements based on reflectance. This includes hemoglobin or SpO2 measurements at the fingertip. Also, changes to speakers or microphones alter sonar-like measurements of breathing or detecting milliliter fluid. In addition to the hardware, there are also significant software challenges as APIs are not developed for health applications. Instead, they focus on user interface. From a developer's perspective, this means there's little control over sensors, limited access to raw data, and restrictions on computational priority. From proximity sensors that only reveal binary values rather than distance, to sensor sampling rates that can be changed with processor load or temperature management. These limitations seriously hinder the health sensing applications. Also, there are even more problems when trying to perform measurements that use multiple sensors, as the problems multiply, and the timing is often not aligned between two or more sensors. Even without the previous three challenges, there are still difficulties with the simple rectangular prism shape of smartphones. As you can see, there are obvious differences between smartphones and medical devices. Smartphone shapes are primarily designed for talking, texting, and watching videos, while medical device form factors are specifically created to conform to the human body in some way. As a result, smartphone physiological measurements commonly require specific attachments. Unlike smartphones, these attachments are not ubiquitous, which makes measurements less generalizable. Next, I'd like to present some tenets for future considerations. I'd like to note that these are speculative design features for the community, and these are not tasks for one individual or group. Although smartphones may be different, there are computational solutions to enable robust performance across a variety of smartphone models. In designing health sensing solutions, it will be key to consider robust models that capture the underlying phenomenon independent of slight hardware variations. For example, a possible solution could be to record a health signal with multiple different phones and use meta-learning to distill a more robust, higher-level model. On the software side, there can be APIs designed to focus on sensor data flow over user interface. This could include improved access to sensors so that developers programming a smartphone could be more like so that developers programming a smartphone could be more like programming a microcontroller. Where this where this okay. Also, an API can improve the guarantees around sampling rate or sensor timing, rather than focusing on ensuring quality presentation to the user. There is feasibility and there has been some progress in this area. One such example is the Camera 2 API, which allows users to control specifics like white balance and exposure. This move towards increasing developer control facilitates the technical obligations of many health measurements. Even with solutions, Even with solutions to designing effective healthcare applications, there remains a physical impedance mismatch between mobile devices and the human body. To alter the smartphone's physical form factor for medical measurements without requiring many specific attachments, we suggest research and development towards a cheap, multi-purpose set of attachments. Here we show an example of how a universal attachment could look. This set of attachments should adhere to almost all phones, be pliable to multiple body parts, and useful for many applications. Over time, it is important to accept that companies will continue to change smartphone designs with minimal transparency. In this tenet, we imagine a scenario where a low-cost smartphone line is created and evolved specifically to enable health sensing. This could be a realistic future for companies given the healthcare interest from large companies and the existing smartphone lines for other specific applications. This smartphone development could fill a much needed healthcare design space for low resource clinics in mobile care scenarios. To do this, Changes such as an added feature should be consciously included to minimize the impact of supported functionality. Other important aspects of a sustainable evolution is more clear documentation and a more spaced release cycle. In concluding, I'd like to present some areas of interest for future investigation. Although we focus on smartphones, many of the challenges and potential futures we present could apply to other ubiquitous devices. Even though most other ubiquitous devices have much more limited data access and control, it may be helpful to think about parallels to smartwatches, smart home devices, smart glasses, and other increasingly popular devices with potential for health sensing capabilities. We also plan to think about improving how we perform and validate mobile health research. Many research applications are implemented and validated on a single smartphone model. But given the difficulties of spreading an application from one phone model to many, what purpose does it serve to demonstrate functionality on a single phone model? It seems that showing functionality on a single phone model is not all that different from showing functionality on a dedicated device. Neither one is easily generalized to all smartphones. We plan to think about how this could be improved in the future. Possibly, we could use multiple phone models for demonstrating functionality. For example, a spirometry measurement could be validated on phone models with different microphone arrangements to demonstrate the feasibility of generalizing the measurement. Hopefully, this would guide researchers towards finding solutions that enable widespread use. Another possible solution to extending research applications beyond one phone would be to develop a standardized platform for development. Similar to USRP for software-defined radios in the networking community, or RISC computer architecture, the mobile device community could define some standard that would enable many medical measurements and promote future progress. This standard could be something like a cheap white label phone with design considerations from an expert panel. As previously discussed, the community could try to sustainably evolve the standard to promote regulatory approval of measurements. Also, companies that wish to include certain health measurements or capabilities into commercial devices can simply copy design features from a single available design that supports validated measurements. We accept that the potential solutions are imperfect, and solving the challenges we present obligates a larger perspective. The ideas and concerns of medical doctors, FDA regulators, economists, NGOs, hospital administrators, and other experts should be considered to highlight the goals and potential pitfalls that we may have overlooked. As such, we plan to start a multifaceted conversation on the challenges and potential solutions of achieving viable and accessible medical applications on a variety of smartphones. Thank you very much for listening. I'd like to open the floor up for questions, thoughts, and related discussion.